This video is sponsored by Normandy 1998 and Ash. We resume as our heroes approach the final leg of their return journey to Petalburg, having already arrived back in Rustboro City within only a few days, all thanks to a speedy ride from Juan and his boat back to Moss Deep, which allowed them to catch another ferry, making its way westward back around Mount Chimney. As with the spare time they've obtained, there is even time for a short visit to update Roxanne on their progress. Now at the midpoint and crossing through Petalburg Woods, the group has once more decided to settle into a nice spacious clearing for lunch, and at Ash's insistence, another practice battle in prep for their final gym badge, since it's finally time to have his Petalburg gym rematch, and for May to conquer her father. As is his way, Max naturally chooses this moment to butt in, reminding May that it's an unlikely outcome for either of them, insisting that his dad is even more impressive than Juan, and that many people are talking about him becoming a member of the Elite Four, so they'll likely be leaving without the balance badge. This snark from her baby brother only encourages May to accept Ash's challenge, since they won't be going all out, and she'd appreciate the practice, and thus she asks if this is why he wanted to speak to Professor Oak before they left Rustboro, to which the raven-haired boy nods, adding that if she wouldn't mind, he'd like to format this spar in the same way as their Sutopolis gym battle, to keep their skills and adaptability sharp, while also applying some of the ideas he discussed on the way there, about better synchronization with Pokemon. Plus, with their gym challenge now almost at an end, they will soon be league rivals, and so this will likely be their last chance to train together, a point which only makes May agree more, as Max's words from the gym ring in her head, about how it would be anyone's guess who would win if they got paired up in the league. Remembering the first round to be a double battle, May starts off with a new pairing of Snorunt and Lairon, expecting Ash to use the same pair from the other day, though to her surprise, he instead produces a Noctowl and Phanpy she's never seen before. From the get-go, it is immediately obvious to May that this will be a trickier and more unpredictable battle than she's used to, as while she is familiar with Ash using these typings thanks to Swellow and Claydol, his strategies with these specific Pokemon are markedly different, throwing her off and exposing her own complacency, as she had come to assume she knew how an Ash ground or flying type battled. This is just what the boy had wanted her to realize, and so for her own good works hard to push his disciple to her limits, reminding her that he is an experienced trainer with several league runs under his belt already, as despite not having battled with these Pokemon for a while, he's able to command them artfully just like Juan. However, this is not to say that May is a helpless victim, as thanks to her own diligence and training, as well as the advantage they have typing-wise, she and her team are able to defeat the Johto duo by having Lairon outroll Phanpy and Snorunt play a cold trick on the sagely shiny bird. When they swap to singles, it becomes clear that these are not Ash's only substitutions, as Kingler has taken the place of Crawdont, Bayleaf Groviles, and Cyndaquil Torkoals, with the remainder of the battle going fairly evenly for both sides, a true testament to how well May has better internalized the lessons and tips from both companions and gym leaders of the region than Ash was able to in his first journey, a feat which he proudly accepts as evidence that he has done well by her, and so no longer has to be looked at as a mentor, but as a true equal, and more importantly from here on out, rival. Eyes shining, Max asks if Ash will consider him a rival one day, and accompany him and Ralts on a journey through a region, enough which makes Ash smile considering how he and the younger boy started off. However, it seems Max isn't done with his line of questioning, as having recognized a few familiar Pokemon from the Silver Conference he watched on TV, the boy asks whether Ash plans to use this subbed out team against his dad and beyond, though the Pallet native quickly denies that this was just for fun, moreover citing that he couldn't imagine challenging the Hoenn League without the Pokemon who got him and Pikachu there, so he'll swap everyone back once they get to Petalburg, though maybe he will bring some of them along for their future journey. Meanwhile, May takes solace in this exercise so perfectly meant to give her an early taste of the competition she'll soon face in the Evergrande Conference, as now she feels truly ready to face her father's full power. From here, as a consequence of timing being so different, the events of a double dilemma and Love Petalburg style either don't happen, or would have already taken place pretty much off-screen, seeing things fairly cleanly brought to the events of the Balance of Power, where Ash, in anticipation of a much longer awaited rematch than canon, takes the first battle against Norman. Here though, the match is totally different as an 8th gym battle, as first and foremost is a 5v5, and with May's battle set to be soon afterwards, Norman has already decided to make use of some of the Pokemon from his old Johto team, as well as prepared a surprise, as he starts out the match with a Furret. Like in canon, Ash decides to open with Pikachu, struggling significantly less than his canon counterpart would against Norman's Slakoth, to earn a clean opening victory. From here though, the battle becomes more complicated as the Petalburg leader reveals that like his daughter, he too has a Kecleon, which after being hit by Pikachu's Thunderbolt and coming to share its typing, begins attempting to wear the rodent's stamina down. This prompts a hasty swap to Claydol, who thankfully handles Kecleon's tricks easily with Psychic so Pikachu can be used again later if need be. However, this is not where the similarity between father and daughter ends, as the next Pokemon Norman brings out is a Zangoose, albeit one with a much more typical disposition for the species, and a quite notably larger size. Using its power and consecutive Fury Cutters, it easily exhausts Claydol as well, seeing it swapped out for Crawdont, who has the experience to beat Claw with Claw, at which point Norman's penultimate Pokemon is revealed ironically to be a Tauros, a species Ash has a maddening amount of familiarity with, enabling him to see Swellow tire out and defeat the Charging Bull by outrunning and outmaneuvering it. In a showing of respect for Ash as a challenger, Norman's last choice is his undeniable Ace Slacking, to which the Ravenhead boy responds with the power and tenacity of a Grovyle fiercer and stronger than its canon counterpart, allowing it to defeat the King of the Jungle without need of its Overgrow ability, making for a spectacular end to Ash's Ho and Gym challenge. Following this outcome, while Norman is cheerful, congratulating Ash on his victory as he recognizes defeat as part of a gym leader's job, Max is left in a state of shock and disbelief, though Hieralt senses his turmoil far before anyone else can take notice, and so psychically soothes the boy, dissuading him from his impulse to steal Ash's badge, allowing him to better accept this outcome and the lesson his father would in canon have to verbalize to him, seeing him merely congratulate Ash a bit teary-eyed as he hugs Ralt with a sad smile and a silent promise that one day it'll be the two of them claiming Dad's badge. With the potential crisis averted, May asks her father what time tomorrow he'd like to have their battle, since presumably his Pokemon need to be taken care of by Nurse Joy before they can fight again. However, here Norman reveals his surprise, that he prepared a second team when he heard she was coming so they can have their battle right away. He then casually passes the current belt holding his team to Caroline, who hands him a different one fully loaded and ready to go, showing just how excited he is for this battle, so that soon father and daughter are standing across from one another on the gym battlefield. As for the rules, terms, and stakes, they're exactly the same as Ash's, with Norman confidently grinning at his daughter as he urges her to show him just how much she's grown, as he releases his first Pokemon, with it being one who bears something of a resemblance to Furret, Linoon. Like Ash did, May wants to start off strong, and while no longer feeling the need to rely on her starter as a guaranteed win, she does still open with Combusken, as it is the most tactical choice considering its fighting typing. Bursting onto the scene with a core, the fiery fowl attempts to match May's fighting spirit, while Max and Caroline cheer out loudly and proudly for both their loved ones to do their best, and Norman nods, commenting that the fire types come a long way from the baby Torchic he met last time May was here, with it having his gratitude for being such a loyal partner to his firstborn, though he hopes it knows his appreciation will come in the form of an all-out battle. Grinning right back at him, May responds that she wouldn't have it any other way. Then in an attempt to maximize Combusken's speed and deal some damage, she calls for her friend to unleash a flame charge double kick combo that sees the firefighting type zoom towards Linoon, while leaving flaming footprints as it tries to kick the very air for propulsion. Truthfully, Norman is impressed by this speedy combo, seeing Ash's influence clearly, though having fought the boy already, he is quick to counter with a belly drum, which sees Linoon stand on its hind legs and strike itself roughly to leave an angry red bruise in its stomach, while a similar coloured aura leaks off it to signify its attack having skyrocketed to the max. This is an awfully risky play, sacrificing half of the slender normal type's endurance while Combusken bears down upon it, though the payoff is easily worth it, as before the fire type can even lay a talon upon Linoon, it unleashes an extreme speed which more than lives up to the name, dodging Combusken's combo and striking it head on, so that it is the chicken who goes skidding back. Shifting gears to fight at long range, May next calls for an overheat, seeing a massive fireball launched in Linoon's general path that will force it to divert, leaving it exposed to a follow-up attack from Combusken. Though prepared for such a situation, Linoon is instead ordered to burrow under the attack with Dig. However, unwilling to squander this opportunity, May tells Combusken to use the combo again, seeing it catch up to and then consume the flames of overheat as it attempts to barrel into Linoon, who is only halfway into its hole. Knowing this will mean the worst if it hits, Norman orders the Thunderwave to try and offer some wiggle room and a weakness to exploit, but thanks to dealing with paralysis so often with Pikachu as a battle mentor, Combusken simply decides to ground itself and its opponent by powerfully diving into the hole Linoon was burrowing to perform a flaming tackle. In the wake of this, a plume of black smoke erupts from the hole, though when it fades, a very tired-looking Combusken emerges, lugging a swirly-eyed Linoon over its shoulder as the first match is given to May. This causes everyone, including Norman, to cheer and encourage her, but this reprieve is a brief one, as after thanking his first Pokemon, the gym leader reveals his second in Spinder. Being only mildly familiar with the species, May takes a moment to use her Pokédex, then subsequently decides that by the looks of things, it'll be wisest to continue using Combusken's fighting typing and speed buffs to go all out. However, when the match begins, it's clear Spinder's tempo is far different from Linoon's, as when May instructs her partner to close in and use Double Kick, the dizzy little Ursid can do little to respond as it is struck once in the gut with with Combusken's foot. However, this is just what Norman wants, as he cries for Tea to dance, causing Spinda to begin swaying in a manner that sets a confused look to Combusken's eyes before it can execute the second kick. Then, if this were not bad enough, when the kick is launched, it is not the normal type, but rather up into its own face, seeing the firefowl squawk in shock as it dazedly looks around for who's attacking it. Such befuddlement during an important battle instantly sends a worried shiver down May's spine, and while Norman takes no pleasure in exploiting his child's fear, in keeping with his promise to her, he has Spinda pile on hypnosis, which in turn causes Combusken to slump onto its rump completely asleep. Urgently, May cries out to try and wake her partner, but it is of no use, as Spinda subsequently reveals its third move to be Dream Eater, allowing it to siphon away some of Combusken's remaining energy telepathically, though this shock at least serves to wake the Firestarter up and thankfully free it of its confusion. Seeing a chance to rebound, May urges her friend to use Overheat one last time, but sadly before Combusken can even get back on its feet, it is promptly laid out on its back, having been felled by a point-blank Psybeam, which evens both trainers out, and seemingly puts May on the back foot, as her starter and most effective Pokemon in this gym is eliminated. However, refusing to lose her cool, May thanks her dad for pushing her, admitting that while she almost started to panic back there, she was able to keep her head since she's come to love battling, and has been waiting for this day for a long time. Beaming with pride at the maturity his daughter has gained in her time away, Norman questions if she wants to continue, with her answer coming in the form of a V for victory, as she declares that of course she does. She's gonna win, and she's gonna do it with the team she's built rather than what she's been given, as that's what her journey, companions, and most importantly mentors have prepared her for. In an attempt to prove this point, her next pick is none other than Lairon, and while Norman tries to repeat his own killer combo, it seems May has already thought of a counter for both Tea to Dance and Hypnosis, by simply calling for the tightest defense color a Iron Armor Pokemon can pull off. At first, Norman is confused by this, until he remembers the opening to Spinda's techniques call for the opponent to perceive the attack, so if Lairon's eyes are hidden, it's essentially immune unless they can get close and pry it open. However, the Petalburg gym leader is no fool, and so instead orders Spinda to remain right where it is and unleash continuous Psybeam at full power, seeing the Spot Panda Pokemon launch another condensed beam of psionic energy that slams into Lairon's armor, only to deflect off for the most part due to the Steel type's resistance. While it keeps their opponent at bay, Norman's mistake is in thinking May's counter ends here, as he too is caught off guard by a rolling Lairon, in fact, even more so due to May's patience with the reveal, with this allowing Lairon to barrel through and split the Psybeam down the middle. Wisely, Norman orders Spinda to dodge out of the way with Tea to Dance, showing the versatility of the move in ditzy Pokemon, as Lairon is forced to come back around for another pass, and another, with this repeating until Lairon has made 5 total passes, and therefore built up a metric ton of speed. This gives May an idea, as she once again calls for Lairon to spin in place and then stop to use an extremely powerful Mudslap from far away, though Lairon has different plans, instead transferring the momentum from rollout into a headlong charge as it locks eyes with Spinda. Seeing his chance, Norman takes this opportunity to call for a Tea to Dance. However, even when it's clear the armored monster is confused, it has already built up far too much inertia to change course. In fact, a mild glow has begun to shine from its armor as it brutally slams into Spinda for what is obviously a very newly learned double edge. Though the sight of her friend treating its body so harshly at first worries May, Brock and her father tell her to look closer, and even as Lairon is shaking off the recoil from the move in its confusion, it seems absolutely no worse for wear, as it seems to possess the Rockhead ability. Excited to see if his daughter can keep her momentum, Norman recalls his fainted Spinda with its replacement being another member of his Johto team, specifically an Apom, who makes itself known as it chatters eagerly in anticipation of the battle. Wanting to test out the new power of Double Edge without fear of recoil, May calls for another one, while Norman does a fake out, with this seeing Apom flip into a handstand, before flipping in to clap its tail hand against the ground extremely loudly, so the resultant sound causes Lairon to flinch. Seizing the initiative, Apom then deftly crosses the distance between them using acrobatics, before jumping onto Lairon's head when Norman next has it execute a tickle that even Lairon isn't immune to under all that armor. As her father is clearly trying to weaken their attack and defenses for a big finisher, May disrupts this by asking her tank to take Apom for a ride. The meaning clear as it quickly curls back up and begins rolling out, forcing Apom to run and balance atop it or risk being run over. However, showing those acrobatics again, the long-tail Pokemon demonstrates an extreme level of dexterity and agility, as it's able to run on all fours in tandem with Lairon's rolling to free its tail up to continue tickling the Steel type from its unprotected sides. Now the victim of a much more expertly employed disruption, Lairon quickly loses control of its rollout, allowing Apom to steer it into a wall, resulting in a bang that shakes the gym itself, before Lairon uncurls and lies prone, unable to battle. Thinking about how craftily Apom and her father fight together, May adopts a devious smirk, and so calls out Snorunt as the third Pokemon, trusting they can both compete with the trickster chimp and cool down its fighting spirit. To this end, when the signal to begin is given, she focuses on Snorunt's strengths, having it refrain from attacking and instead fill the field with as many double-team clones as it can, the result being an army of Snow-Hat Pokemon scampering around Apom and overexciting it, as nearly every time Norman orders it to move around with acrobatics, sabotage with Tickle, or attack with Mega Punch, it hits nothing but cold air, only to be on the receiving end of either Icy Wind or Headbutt. As a result, it is not long before Apom gets antsy enough to simply start attacking clones indiscriminately as May had wanted, so that when Apom does eventually strike something solid, it is only a mass of melting snow molded into the vague shape of a faux Snorunt, with this serving as an easy way to stop the purple monkey in its tracks long enough to attack Apom's blindside with a full power Icy Wind that freezes it solid, before landing a final headbutt that renders it unable to battle. At this upset, Max lets out a cheer, having subconsciously begun to root for May, as he cannot help but be impressed with how well his sister is matching his dad. Likewise, as pride swells in his chest, Norman brings out his penultimate Pokemon, Kangaskhan, with May once again using her Pokédex to learn more about the Pokemon, partially because the Kangaskid is simply too cute. After some thought, she settles on having Snorunt keep up its tricks, though it seems Kangaskhan has an answer to their indirect tactics in the form of a protect barrier to defend herself and her baby, while Norman makes use of technically having two Pokemon on the field, as there are now 6 eyes simultaneously scanning for the real Snorunt amongst its clones. Thanks to this, it does not take long for the gym leader team to spot their quarry, and in a testament to the strength of Norman's old friend, down the ice type in one hit. Recalling the snow cone with her thanks, May's next choice is Kecleon, which Norman admits he's rather excited to battle, since he'd love to have it train with his own sometime in the future, while in turn May smiles that she'd like that too, reflecting on how it seems his is much more of a special attacker, though she keeps this observation to herself, not being so naive as to tip her opponent off to how her Kecleon fights. Instead, when Norman calls again for Protect, she orders a long-distance bind that sees Kecleon lash its tongue against the shield only to fail, at least seemingly, as when the shield falters, May just as quickly orders the normal type to use Thief on the Kangaskid, the very suggestion of which causes its mother to go into a frenzied and hysterical state, just as the Pokédex had warned. Thanks to this, Norman begins struggling to command Kangaskhan as it becomes overprotective of its baby and trying to keep Kecleon from stealing it away, with the gym leader calling May's attempt a clever one, though speaking from experience, when a parent feels their child is in danger, there is nothing they won't do to protect them, so he's afraid this trick won't work. However, it seems Norman has failed to factor in one crucial detail, as growing frustrated with its mother's mollycoddling, the Kangaskid leaps out of the pouch and charges Kecleon, with May grinning that when a child wants to prove themselves to their parent, they'll do some pretty daring stuff too. Unfortunately, it seems the Kangaskid will not be given its moment of glory, as on May's command, Kecleon promptly turns invisible and hops into Kangaskhan's pouch. Thinking this is the return of its Joey, the maternal marsupial wastes no time in raising its Protect, only to be horrified at the revelation that it is now the one keeping its child out. However, this is not an issue Kangaskhan must deal with for long, as Kecleon uses this moment to reappear in a most disconcerting manner atop Kangaskhan's face, causing it to faint from shock and thus bring Norman down to his final battler as he recalls both mother and child. For the aforementioned final pick, Norman brings forth a true surprise in a second slacking, as May hadn't expected her dad to evolve Vigoroth just to take her on the same day he did Ash. Nonetheless, knowing the terror the lazy Pokemon can be, she tells Kecleon they'll have to be even more careful this time, even going so far as to have the lizard give itself a little lick to turn into a ghost type, in the hope that this will render it untouchable. However, this is not the only benefit, as by drawing on the spectral powers of the underworld, Kecleon's invisibility becomes even stronger, allowing it to try for another surprise attack, though reminding all assembled why he is in contention for an Elite Four spot. Norman confidently tells Slacking to use Yawn, which it indeed does with gusto, though it is much more of a sleepy bellow than a yawn, with the result being a noise that no amount of ghostly power can ignore, so that soon Kecleon is asleep before it can launch any kind of attack. Feeling the tension rising now as Kecleon is normal type once more, May urgently calls out to it, hoping it will wake up in the short window where Slacking is loafing around picking its nose. Unfortunately, here she is not so lucky, meaning that once Truant expires, the bulky bruiser is able to launch a Gigi Impact which pancakes Kecleon against a wall, and unsurprisingly ends its tenure in this battle. Now it is May's turn to choose her last Pokemon, and as she looks between her final 2 Pokeballs, she weighs her options carefully. On one hand, Meryl's huge power, and more importantly ambition to be simultaneously the cutest and strongest, would probably make it the most logical choice to contend with the King of the Jungle, though on the other, that gut instinct that Ash has always championed she go with above all else calls for her to choose her Frady Cat Ferret Pokemon, as this may be just the challenge it needs to help it gain confidence in itself as a strong battler. And besides, even if today isn't her day to obtain a balance badge, they've still got a whole month until the Hoenn League tournament, and so with no fear or burdens weighing her down, Mei brings out Zangoose, with sweet and genuine encouragement that she knows it can do this and become the ultimate version of itself, just like they both promised they would the day they met. Remembering how it technically fell first against Milotic, and seeing that this opponent, though laid back, is surely fiercer, Zangoose of course seems hesitant, but by the same token, it has come a long way from the cowardly outcast it once was, and so swallowing its fear gives its trainer a valiant nod to say that it's ready. Beaming at this resolve, Mei orders it to begin with Quick Attack, seeing it shoulder charge into the behemoth normal type opposing it, while Norman attempts to call for a super effective hammer arm to retaliate. However, thanks to Zangoose being so much smaller and faster than the cat ferret the gym leader is used to, he is able to slip through an opening in Slacking's defenses, avoiding the brunt of this attack, and only feeling the strong winds that come off it as it attempts another Quick Attack as part of its now trademark hit-and-run tactics. In turn, Norman keeps up the cry of hammer arm, albeit only half as often as Mei, due to Slacking's ability, with this evening out, as while Zangoose lands more than twice as many hits as its foe, each of the lazy Pokemon's moves is super effective. However, as it turns out, the deciding factor of this match may not in fact be hits, but stamina, as both Pokemons are fading fast, Zangoose due to its constant movement, and Slacking courtesy of having to move those heavy muscles, as well as being frustrated by its lack of success. However, all in all, it seems that Slacking's stamina is fading faster, a truth which is not lost on either trainer, as Norman calls for a Slack-off hoping to heal his friend, though this also creates a fairly massive opening, as now Slacking will be inert for twice as long, allowing Zangoose to close in for 2 consecutive Crush Claws, leaving all uncertain as to whether the Great Ape's stamina is higher or lower than it was before the Slack-off. All the same, as Zangoose had needed to get close for the Crush Claw, it is now in melee range, allowing Slacking to get off a hammer arm which turns Zangoose's pupils into fearful pinpricks when it sees the blow coming. However, in a testament to its growing resolve, the cat ferret does not flee, standing firm as the attack draws nearer and only moving when Mei gives her command, with that being Detect. Like during the battle with Juan, Zangoose then takes on that blue hue, as with enhanced speed it avoids the attack, only to counter with a powerful Crush Claw, fueled by all the terror it had to stifle. Though this is not the end of Zangoose's assault, as with Truant now active once again, the smaller normal type is entitled to another free hit, and so channeling all its force of will, Zangoose lets off a final Crush Claw on Mei's command, which actually manages to briefly lift Slacking off the ground, before it crashes back down into the wooden floorboards of the gym with spirals for eyes. And just like that, the battle is at an end, with everyone gathering around Mei and Zangoose to give their congratulations, with none being prouder than Norman, who presents her with her balance badge, and beams the couldn't be happier. He then makes a statement that comes as something of a shock to everyone, as he reveals that in light of how much progress she has made, he feels a lot more confident in actually entertaining the invitation he's received to join the Hoenn Elite Four, so if Mei would be willing to indulge him in chasing the next step of his own dream, he'd like to offer her the position of Petalburg gym leader. Not needing to think about it for very long thanks to encounters and personal battles with trainers like Flannery, Roxanne, and Liza, Mei is more than willing to accept, though before that happens, she's definitely going to take on the league, and probably do some more training too. This is more than acceptable to Norman, as he knew that none of these changes would happen overnight, and besides, he doubts Mei would have the position for all too long with her brother coming after her, a statement Max and Roltz confirm with matching grins, while Mei playfully teases that even if they started training now, it'd take them a million years to catch up to her. Wanting to avoid a fight breaking out between her children, Caroline then speaks up, insisting they all stay the night and join them for dinner, promising to even make Mei's favorites, since after all that's happened today, they have plenty to celebrate. And that's where we'll leave things. How will Ash and Mei fare now that they've made it to the Hoenn League? Which new rivals will rise to oppose them? And what does Mei's position as gym leader to be mean for her future travels with Ash? Find out as the journey continues.